Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. I am having a great day. You can always tell, right? So some of those past episodes, you're going to be like, what's wrong with Charli? One of them, I had COVID. So just try to pick out which one I was not energized about. Hopefully, I still did a good job. Uh, this is such a great speaker that we have today, my coach, and you've probably seen him at one of these past podcasts or on the TEDx stage. But I'm so happy every time I get to talk to you, Rob. Jump on here, tell everybody who you are, what you're doing.
Thanks for having me, Charli. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first off, Charli dressed up for me today. So
Of course, it's
everybody out
bling
there,
bling.
she's winning an award tonight. She doesn't realize it yet, but it's happening. Charli's the star of Tuscaloosa. So it's all happening.
I love it. Thank you for that. I feel like a winner already. I guess that's my little glow today. Is just I love an award ceremony, which I'm not twirling my baton today, but it feels like it. But yeah, so me and Rob, if y'all haven't seen our episodes, go back and find the original. I'll probably link to it. And you know, I just have to start like we started off just like, hey, we're two people in the industry that podcast. Somebody should, connect y'all, right? Is how this happened. And then you started on this journey of leadership, which I just what I want to talk about today. I've been with you along this journey, not the whole way, but both of us have just grown and developed, and it's been such a wonderful ride. And so I'm just interested in kind of updating our listeners who do know you and have followed the journey, kind of what you're doing now. And, to start, we're just two reliable people in the industry, right? And so much more. So, Rob, tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. I think our first pod together would have been 2021 around this time.
That's
And
right.
then, yeah, you jumped into the first Leadership Launchpad locker room, and since then, it's been big. We've been doing, I want to say, over 100 folks through that program. Huge success. I mean, you're a huge success as well, but we've had folks use it for like quitting smoking. One of the folks actually just emailed me yesterday. He's like, I got this big promotion. Like, thanks for, it's definitely part of it. And so, yeah, we've had some great success with that. I mean, for me personally, what's changed, at least recently, in April, my wife and I, we moved down here to Costa Rica. Um, so that's been incredible. And then July, I did a TED talk in Japan about how to deal with a bad boss. And folks out there, like Japan has a lot of problems with bad bosses and like the impacts. Um, and so that was incredible. And obviously we do as well in North America, but it
Well,
was a
I wanted
wild
to say,
culture.
I wanted to
Yeah.
say the reason why we kind of went further. I remember reaching out to you after the original podcast, and all you did was mention mental health awareness and like the work there that needs to be done. It was right at the end of the podcast, and it's it's because of culture. It's because of, you've experienced it. I've experienced it. What do we do when we have a bad boss? Well, we either turn it on ourselves and say it's our fault, or we kind of say, okay, we got to get out of here. Right. So, what other options are there? I think you're really getting into that. And I think it's fascinating to watch this kind of, okay, this is what happened to you. You got the help that you needed. Now let's help others. And by the way, here's why we're needing to solve this problem.
It's a massive problem. So 65% of the workforce experiences a bad boss right now. And when we say bad boss, there's a spectrum, right? So often we think of like the, Darth Vader yelling person. I always say this Gordon Ramsay. on Hell's Kitchen. Like, I know it's a persona, but basically like that, right? But that's actually just, you know, small percentage of the whole picture. Like, that's about 5.5% of the workforce has that. So there's 60% who experiences different bosses like that. And it can even be folks that, you know, we see this a lot in heavy industry, is like middle managers who don't accept accountability. They don't want to sign off on decisions. They kind of just are plugging away, but not really showing up for their folks. And like, it's not that they're out to get you, because they're not. They're just like not empowered to go out and make decisions. Maybe they lack confidence, or they've been learned in these cultures where processes dominate, where it's like you just learn like I can't actually affect anything. And
Yeah,
so
the
the
other thing
spectrum's wide. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that made me think of is just, um, a lot of people are just excelling in the job that they're in. They're doing great, and then we throw them into management, which is a completely different role, right? I know I'm guilty of like trying to push people into that, and to, like, noticing that about myself, but also just how do we train people? They step into this, they want to do well at their work and their job, and then we don't equip them.
Yeah. And it's wild, right? Like, I was thinking about, so there's a stat in Harvard Business Review that it says like first time supervisors average age is 29 years old. And then the average age that folks get leadership training is 42. And so there's a 13-year gap, right? And I was thinking, I was trying to think of a job that they put you in with no training. And I was like, I can't even think of anything. Like the folks at, you know, fast food restaurants, they're trained on whatever station they're running. Like, you know, hairdressers and tattoo artists and like barbers, they all have to get like wild certifications. And, you know, in heavy industry, right? Like, you want to be a mechanic, like you have to do apprenticeship and like all these things. And it's like, well, you're just Charlie. Tomorrow, you're going to be leading a group of 100 people. Like, go for it. Like, you
Right.
are a great salesperson. Like, you're a
Manage a
great
sales
engineer.
team.
Like, of course, you're going to be good at this, right? And it's like, this is why actually the stats say like 60 to 70% of people who become executives fail in the first year. And it's because they don't learn the skills. And the other side of it is like, well, I've been doing the same thing for 13 years and now you're going to try to teach me something different. Like, that's real hard
Yeah,
to
change. Y'all know that
unlearn.
change feels like an attack. Somebody told me that, and that just stays with me. Like every little change can feel like an attack on your body if you're not like ready for it, or prepped for it, or you haven't paid attention to your body enough to see that, okay, you know I'm really stressing out here just by this little bitty change. Why is that? And our leaders, I think it's something it's so simple. It's kind of like going back to the basics, right? Figuring it out. What do we need to do to start off in managing people? Because that's really what we're talking about. Leaders, and I know the kind of accept responsibility to be a leader, right? You have to want it, first of all, but you can want it, after the facts of, okay, this is all you're going to do. Like after we tell them all of the things that are involved in there, then they can decide whether they want it or not. Maybe that would be something that we thought about. It's like, not, okay, you're in this role, go for it, versus this is what this role is actually about. And do you want it or not? Kind of thing. I'm really excited about what you're doing.
It's true, right? And we've had a few folks that have gone through the LLP who have said, you know what, this ain't for me. I want to be like, I want to be an SME and I'm an expert and this is what I want. And it's, I'm like, great, we helped you figure out what you want to do. Because ultimately, that's what my goal is. I mean, of course, we're trying to get the profitability and productivity and all that stuff. But ultimately, I want folks who go through the program to be happier and to get whatever success they want. And if that's like, I want to be the best SME, great. Because often, and you know this, Charlie, right, is like folks get into management because it's their path up. More money, more success. I see myself corner office. I've been told my whole life that if I'm not rich, I'm nothing, right? And it's like all this nonsense. And it's like, that's why a lot of our leadership training doesn't work. And that's the other stat, right? Is like 75% of leadership training doesn't work because it doesn't address mindset. And you know this because you've done the work, right? Is like mindset is foundational to any change that you want to sustain, because otherwise you're just trying to like grit your teeth and bang it in there. And that doesn't really work. And it's like, I get folks that are telling me like, hey, I took this training, and it tells you to give feedback, like the feedback sandwich or whatever. And it's like, yeah, next week after the training, you'll use it. And then 6 months from now, you might forget it. And then a year from now, you're definitely not using it. Right. And so it's like once you ingrain into your mindset, like these are my beliefs and I'm working on them and I'm changing and I'm growing and I'm aware and I'm self aware and I'm empathetic, it just becomes who you are. And it's not
Yeah.
work.
I think it's key to note that this doesn't happen in an hour session, in a day session, in a week or a month. This is a new practice of living, right? It's the core is the beliefs, absolutely. For me, and I've talked about this on here in many stages. Like the self awareness was huge, the emotional intelligence, huge things that are buzzwords out there in industry. But if you do this work and you really get to know yourself, you're going to see things. You're going to see it in other people, which I think probably the biggest, most helpful thing was to actually see somebody else doing one of those limiting things,
Totally.
talking themselves out of success. And to see that, you're going to be able to help people. You're going to be able to see that in your team. And it's like you said, it's just, you're just aware of it constantly. I mean, I can sit across a table of five and be like, I need to go talk to that person a little bit more. You feel it, and that's what we need for our leaders. We need them to be able to be that clued in so that they can see when something's going on that nobody's telling them. Because if they're a bad leader, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to tell. They're not going to feel safe. But you're going to be able to see it, right? Especially like I think about new leaders coming in that are really trying to create change. They're going to have to be able to read people because those people are going to be kind of broken and not feel safe to open up.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a huge thing. But you're totally right. Is like I say now that it feels sometimes like I'm in the Matrix and I'm like Keanu Reeves, because I see people and I see a lot of their core beliefs really quickly, and I'm like, hey, this is how I can help you. And like this is, I see it so quickly and I see it because of the things they say. It's just like boop, dialed in. And 2 years ago when we did our first pod, I was not able to do this, right? But it's the continued practice of excavation of ourselves, but also like applying learning. And I think if folks go away, right, it's like it's a leadership journey. And I don't want to say that like it's going to scare you, because it's going to take, you'll never actually get to the end and there is no end. And like, you got to just like work incredibly hard at all times. Like, it's not that. I mean, yes, it's becomes a daily practice, but you get results.
Well, I
Like
think that the
Charlie,
goals change,
like,
right?
yeah.
You're continually having to work on this because you're continually improving, right? We talk about that a lot in our industry, and you can see that within yourself, but you can see it within your teams. And then somebody on your team wants to grow and change, and then you have resources to help them. I've seen it. I've loved to see the work that y'all do at the LLP. For one, that's just one element of what you're doing. And then you personally, I've loved seeing you hit that stage because, I think of the engineer, all right? And they aren't necessarily the one that wants to just hold up their hand and jump onto a stage like traditionally. And my favorite thing is to walk up to a timid engineer and ask them about their product, and they just come alive and tell me all about it. It's one of my favorite things at an event. But to see that there's you can be that subject matter expert, you can dive into your product, but at some point you may want to change that. You may want to grow outside of that, and that's okay. I think opening up your mind and your ideas, and we need this because we have lots of problems to solve and we need lots of ideas at the table. to see that growth and that confidence and that, taking a problem and solving it, you're doing that even for that company, because you're doing it for the industry. And so that resource that you may not be able to solve a problem within a certain company, you can continue to work on that. And even if you leave that company and go to another place, or you have another mission or goal, then it's going to stay with you and you're going to make that impact. Just this week, I've been watching a lady that has been growing within an organization, and she gave all the tools, all the leadership and everything, and they're just not ready, right? They
Yeah.
just can't do it yet. But that doesn't mean that she didn't make a positive impact, that she didn't give everything to that company, and that she needs to have a positive outlook moving on to the next one, right? That's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes they're not ready for what you have, what kind of brilliance you're bringing to the table. They're just not ready for it. And so I'm so happy to see you taking all those things that you learned for our industry, because you are still making an impact in our industry and space, in that maintenance and reliability world, where we need it. So I've really enjoyed watching that over the last couple of years.
Oh, thank you. And that's the thing, right? Is like developing yourself is an investment that you can't lose. It's impossible. Like I am a different person now than I was 2 years ago, than I was 5 years ago, right? And when we did the podcast the first time, I didn't have an inkling that I could give a TEDx talk um, while working as basically a job I didn't really realize existed, right? And like move to another country and get married and like all these things that like I never would have done because I didn't believe that I had so much stuff like, you have to be in a stable job, you have to work full time, you have to live in North America because, that's safe and whatever. And it's like all that beliefs that were piled up, right? That's the that's the stuff that, you know what? Costa Rica's sweet.
Yeah, I was
Like
going to say
doing
it's
a
somebody
TED talk
else's
is pretty
belief.
cool.
Yeah. So, somebody else's belief is in there, and you've got to you've got to do the work to see, is that relevant anymore? Do you still believe those things? Is one of those things that you believe holding you back? And I think
Yeah.
that that's what, you found, okay, here's the belief that's holding me back. Look at all the things I can do. And by the way, I'm capable of doing. It's just I thought, because that was already in my mind from past history, that this is who I am and this is what I need to do. And so I love that. I think that there's so much opportunity within our industry for so many different job categories. I know when I needed to leave my company, when I was fired, I should have just left. I was ready to go. I was ready to, create and kind of master this social media world. But I was kind of felt like I had to stay, like I needed to be there. They're my family. I was really invested in that. And I don't think I would have left, right? I would just kept like, trying to please and trying to do what they wanted me to do. And I can still have all of that value for a company, even if I left. I could have left and on my own terms, and then gave value back to that company, right? There's so many different things that are positive from when you make the decision to move on, because you see, actually there's something else I think that's in me that I need to do over here. So that's what I've really, I guess, big lessons learned from Rob, helped me see. There's so many things. It's hard to talk about all of them here, Rob, of what we've learned together, but I do want to stay on you today. So you,
Well, just just a great point though. Like the how to deal with an asshole boss, right? Like I have a program for it. And it feels very much like, hey, your options are stay or go or set boundaries. And basically those are your options. But that's not the secret. Like, yeah, that's what you're going to hear on the TED stage. And like, we had 15 minutes. So like, it's,
get
you
to the
can't really
point.
get into deep stuff. But like, the true secret, and this is what I put into the program, is like the mindset stuff. So We're going to have you do your values. We're going to have you look at your beliefs. We're going to have you do some deep work, like, of course, just a little bit, right? But ultimately, what I want folks to get from this is like empowerment in terms of like, I can give myself authority to make decisions for me. And the other side of it is I value myself so then I can choose the best path. And like, here's another crazy stat for you is like, on average, people with toxic bosses stay at their job 2 years longer than everybody else. And it's like the bad bosses destroy your confidence, they destroy your ability. You know, some folks, it's like being a toxic relationship where you're just like, well, I got to please this guy, even though like whatever, right? And it's like some of the advice online actually tells folks to like suck up to your boss. It's like, would you say that if like, imagine you went to a couples therapist and you said, like, you know, my partner's like abusing me, and they're just like, yeah, well, that's your fault. You should make them feel better about themselves.
Yeah. Really
Like,
praise them for that. Yeah. Mm-mm. Uh, and that's it. That's the value in of yourself will make you make that knowing who you are, knowing what your values are, and knowing like that doesn't align. You're going to be able to make that decision so much quicker. You're going to see it. You're going to be able to say, you know what? This is not going to help me accomplish my goals. I think, or I have given everything and nothing's happening here. I don't think I can affect change here. I'm going to say, here's what needs to be happening at this organization. I really tried my best to help you, but I've got to move on to this next opportunity. But I wanted you to have all these things because you're close. You're trying. You're just not quite there yet. And I don't think I have anything else I can offer in that space. And so there's so many scenarios like that we could go through, right? I think about the subject matter expert that you talked about that really, really, really wanted to go up that next level, but they knew so much about the product that their company didn't want to lose them because they were the expert in that field and they didn't have anybody else that could do it. So they just kept them there versus putting together a training system to raise up the next person. And so part of it is don't get frustrated because they won't give you that next opportunity. What's the real problem here? They need a training program so they can make more of you. And then maybe you would go up to the next level. There's all kinds of scenarios, and it's fun. I love this work because it's a problem that actually can be solved.
yeah, and it just requires that lens of having that mindset where you're open and you're more curious, right? And you're open to growth, right? And that's the part is like we don't realize what we can actually accomplish, right? And I joked before we jumped on, right? Next year's Empowering Women's Summit will be at Bryant Denny Stadium with 100,000 people, right? And it's like, that's a joke, but there's definitely a place for you to get thousands of folks in there and maybe even eventually get to that size of a place, right?
But you have to be able to see it and believe it and want it. Like those all have to be tied together in that goal. Like, do you see it? Right? Can you see that stadium filled up with people and like relevant person on the stage? Right? Who do you see? Right? Of course I can see it, but I'm missing the Bama lights anytime. But that's it. It's seeing that. It's seeing the goal that you actually want. And maybe that goal is not yours, right? I think the opposite is true.
That's
Like
the
we
other
talked
side,
about
yes.
earlier. That's not me. I don't want that. What a great thing to say because you know what? We actually need you in this other department anyway. Thank you for letting us know these other skills or doing the strength test to find out, okay, they're actually better at this. This is the path for operations versus, people person, for example, stage front and center. So it's it's helpful to tell your boss these things, the truth, but that boss has to be able to be one that can take that and create the space. We talked a lot about psychological safety and creating space. It has to be there. you can't really get to what we're talking about if you can't open that space for people.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of folks have, right? And the other side, right, is like, is what you said, Charlie, about your goals might not be your own. And that's part of the mindset work that we help folks with, right? Is like this element of like I was told by my parents, like, hey, you got to go into STEM because, you know, it's a good career path. It's stable. It makes good money, whatever. Like my dad, when I was going to college, he was like, you got to take a degree that gets a return on investment,
Hmm.
right? And then I was an engineer. And then I suffered greatly in my mental health. And then now I do a job that I haven't looked at a spreadsheet in a long time, or I very rarely do it. My job is basically this one on one deep work with folks. And yeah, I do some groups, but like this is basically where I help people make the most change. And it is not at all with
It's not a STEM
differential
program.
calculus.
Well, I think that that's important. I mean, I think it also stems from, whatever parents were, why they were pushing you. So we're in sales. We'd come out and then like trying to get a sales job, and there's no like background of like a skill, right? And so we push our kids to get a skill because you don't want to be here where you're just trying to like sell anything, sell theory, because that's what we did. But it's still, both are good. It's just, what do you want to do, right? Um, I love my example of graduating from the University of Alabama with a finance degree. What were they thinking? I mean, yes, I can do anything, is what I feel like. Lots of numbers and letters. Why do they need to go together? I don't know. Adding numbers and letters. Anyway, but there was a reason behind that, right? There's a reason why they wanted you to be successful and independent and have money, and at the same time I just want to start the party, energize people, motivate them, and develop them. I love developing leaders, which you know. And so, how do we get that? We have to go through some of that. We have to figure it out. We have to do the work, which we talked about before the call. All of these great awards and celebrations and goal smashings that we've done is because we've been doing the work, and it's been wonderful to do that alongside a team too. And that's the environment that you're creating for people at Elite. And if people are wanting to get involved with the league, can you tell us a little bit about the programs that y'all do offer?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as you know, our most popular programs, Leadership Launchpad, it's a 12-week program and has online modules. If you get it corporately, we do group coaching calls. We haven't run it privately yet. Or, sorry, I mean, we haven't run it publicly for individuals in a while. But corporately, we do group calls and then one on one coaching. Actually, specifically, I don't know when this pod will come out, but we can make that happen. We have a special going on. I have it on for LRVS, but we can make it happen for your folks, and we'll definitely do it
It'll be
around.
October. That's when this is planning to come out.
Sure. So we can make that happen. So if you email Charlie or email me and just say you're interested in the LLP program, we can give you a discount. So it'll be $9.99 US, and you'll get 3 coaching sessions one on one. Usually we sell that for like $3,000 to $4,000. So it's a great deal. We're doing that special for a few events, but yeah, we'll hook that up for you guys too as the listeners. Yeah, and then the other stuff. I mean, we have an executive program. We have an aspiring leaders program for folks who are wanting to get into leadership roles, and then we have obviously one-on-one coaching for the folks who are really going in the pocket and ready to really make some impact. And so, yeah, you can reach out for all of those things for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, all of them are great for different reasons. It's trying to figure out which one works for you. I've done all of them, and I love all of them. I remember getting to see the aspiring leaders, and that was really fun
Yeah.
too. And then you are doing a lot of work with women too. Susan, it wasn't Susan, it was somebody else, MJ, and somebody
Yeah,
doing that.
Susan, MJ, Leanne,
Leanne
They've
too.
done
Also.
some work with women's programs, so you'll see them in the women's the your women's community.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll
So
see
I'm
them in
excited
there.
about seeing that,
I'll probably
empowering
be in
women
there
in
too, but
industry. And so that's what's coming up for me next, for sure. We've got TPS, which we're recording before this goes out. Um, and anyway, so we have many events coming up. Excited about those. Excited about empowering women, and then also Epic, which is where we'll see you next in person on the stage. So that's in Buford, Georgia. That's November the 8th and 9th. Excited. They're going to give a little splash on how to deal with the asshole boss, and if that offends you, just say bad boss or toxic boss. But I'm excited. It's at the afternoon of the 9th, and it follows how to talk with engineers, which I'm really excited about how those two tie in together. And we have Beer Logic, which is a lot of fun too, going on. You'll love Chad when you get to meet him. And so we have a lot going on. Rob, we wouldn't have a lot going on if you hadn't helped me get my stuff together, and open the space for me to even see. Because I came to you thinking, I want to be a better leader. Tell me more about that, right? I need to know what it is. How do I do this? What is the thing? And what you pointed to me is you're already a leader. Okay, can I hold up this mirror for you? And that was wonderful. And that's what we want to do for others. And we want to really help people develop themselves and kind of get their team on board, whether that's your boss or you are the boss. It's going to help. Um, and so I think it's a great title. I think it is exciting to have at Epic, and I'm just really excited to get to see you again. I hope to come to Costa Rica at some point, but
we'll
thanks for
make it
coming.
happen.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the U.S. for all of us. Anything else you want to have the last word here?
No, I mean if folks want the How to Deal program, we're giving $50 off to the empowering community. So Charlie will have the link in the podcast notes, and you just put in the promo code empowering, all caps. And yeah, I mean, if you want the special offer for the LLP with 3 coaching sessions, um, I'll get a link for that, and you can post that in the podcast notes as well. And yeah, if you want any corporate programs or you want me one-on-one, shoot me a message and we'll make it happen.
Well, I can't let you go without talking about your podcast, because I still listen to it and I love it. And that's just, I can't say like, subscribe, share. You need to do that for the Empowering Industry podcast too today, but I definitely want y'all to do that. That's the Leadership Launchpad podcast, everywhere that you have podcasts. So, definitely follow them. It's such great content, amazing people that y'all are interviewing. And it's helpful. Every single podcast, you learn something about how to be a better leader, and how to lead your teams better. So thanks for continuing to do that too, Rob.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And this fall we have a bunch of great guests. I mean, obviously Charlie's in the archives. So if you look for that one, you can find Charlie maybe twice, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah, I had some good ones.
Yeah. And then, yeah, we have some amazing guests coming up this fall. And even like we have folks like world renowned psychologist Dr. Richard Schwartz is in the archives. We've had Sonny Strasberg. We've had Wes Eugene. We've had a lot of really amazing folks that have joined the show. So, yeah, check it out.
I love it. I love it. And Dave Irvin, he came on for us.
Yeah, David Irvine. Yeah.
Yeah. So wonderful connections to be made there. Susan, hey, if you see this, love what you're doing there. I've been following you on social too. Love the Instagram. So y'all follow Elite High Performance and all things there. I'll put the links in the show notes, like you said. And, I look forward to seeing y'all. Tell me if there's something we need to cover, connecting with a cool person to interview. And until next time, be empowering. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.